with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, first, we have some breaking news, some major intel on the RBG or RGB controversial dust-up from the beginning of the show. It does seem that both Dawson and Adam said RGB, and we have the tape to prove it. Go ahead.
With Gina Grad on news. RGB wasn't his favorite Supreme Court. Cesario with the sports. And now, RGB wasn't his favorite Supreme Court justice.
And I got a text from Gary, I think Saturday, saying, we got RGB died. That is
Maybe
true.
he was quoting the text.
Yeah, I could have been quoting the text. I'm going to blame Dawson for planting the evil RGB seed in my head.
I planted it, and that's why when I heard you say it, I thought it was correct.
Ooh, all right. Gina stands we stand corrected.
Moving on, apology accepted. Speaking of apologies, the long, much-awaited Ellen DeGeneres apology aired on Monday. And I'll play a clip and you can draw your conclusions. So she addressed a lot of the controversy surrounding her and the show. She opened by saying she's made the necessary changes and that today was the start of a new chapter on the show. And everybody in the audience clapped. And by everyone in the audience, I mean they had these giant monitors and each one contained a human being inside of it. People magazine say that her wife, Portia de Rossi, was backstage supporting her and that the whole crew applauded Ellen when she walked off the set after taping. Here's a clip from the speech.
So they wouldn't get fired?
That's right.
Being known as the Be Kind Lady is a tricky position to be in. So let me give you some advice out there. If anybody's thinking of changing their title or giving yourself a nickname, do not go with the Be Kind Lady. Don't do it. The truth is, I am that person that you see on TV. I am also a lot of other things. Sometimes I get sad, I get mad, I get anxious, I get frustrated, I get impatient. And I am working on all of that. I am a work in progress. And I'm especially working on the impatience thing and it's not going well because it's not happening fast enough. I will tell you that. Listen, I don't know. I'm a talk show host and you know that, but maybe some of you know that, I was an actress. I've played a straight woman in movies, so I'm a pretty good actress. But I don't think that I'm that good that I could come out here every day for 17 years and fool you. This is me. And my intention is to always be the best person I can be. And if I've ever let someone down, if I've ever hurt their feelings, I am so sorry for that.
So this is one of those things where you go, I made a mistake, I'm human, and then you kind of do this thing where you go, I'm a human. I experience things, sadness. It's like, no, we're talking about you being a super bossy bitch and making everyone's life miserable, not sadness. You know what I mean? And then you do this like, I'm this. Well, we're all this. The best people we know, Fred Willard was sad and happy and
sometimes
whatever.
Impatient.
And you do this thing where you go, then you do this other part thing where you go, I just want the best product, and sometimes I get a little impatient and I whatever. And that's true. She's doing this thing where she's kind of reconstructing everyone working for her being scared shitless of her all the time because of this environment she created, which does fall under the heading of some of those emotions, but it's a separate thing of you saying, I have good days, I have bad days. Sometimes I feel happiness, other times I feel sadness. You just sort of describing the wheel of human emotions and saying, I'm a human as well, or I make mistakes. It sort of reminds me of like when people go, look, I made a mistake, but everyone makes mistakes. Like you shot a crossbow through the side of a crib and killed an infant. I'm saying I'm human. Everyone makes mistakes. Like this is not kind of what we're talking about. So she did a good job of waltzing around that.
Finessing.
But creating a really shitty environment and having everyone who works for you scared to death of you is kind of what my beef is, not the good days and bad days. Yes, Brian.
Yeah, this is exactly what I predicted, which was going to be such a beautiful threading of the needle when it comes to sidestepping an actual apology. And I know she's a comedian and I know she's making jokes out of it and that, lightens the mood, but saying like, look, like, I don't expect you to feel sorry for me, but don't be the be kind lady if you're wanting to come up with the nickname. I mean, I'm the be kind lady and look how people come after me. Just like, well, this isn't really about you. Right. This is about your staff.
Well, the
part that was a little bit, sorry to interrupt, the part that was a little bit disgusting to me was, in one breath, she explains, I'm a pretty good actress. I pretended to be a straight woman when in fact I'm not. And the next breath, she's like, she was saying, oh, I can't come out here for 17 days and 17 years every day and fool you. Bitch, you just told us what a great actress you were.
Right.
The Hollywood, the history of Hollywood is populated with people lying to us. Gay men trying to pretend to be straight. Bill Cosby pretending to be America's dad. Like, you can't hold together 42 fucking minutes a day and pretend you're someone you're not. Of course you can.
Of course. And by the way, 11 minutes of it was dancing, just like Cosby used to do at the beginning of his shows. Yep. And just so people are clear where I'm coming from, I'm not a, people who work with you are your best friend, pampered environment. You guys all know that. Like, I believe work is work. You get paid, you go home. Like, you don't have to create this amusement park for your employees, as you guys know. But having them frightened and intimidated is always. I've worked in that environment. I've had construction foremen where you're just like scared of them, and it makes for a horrible environment. But what I'm saying is if you want to go the unfinished Arizona, raising Arizona route, where the FBI profiler is saying to the guy who runs. Is it unfinished Arizona?
Unpainted Huff Hines. Unpainted Arizona.
Right. You want to call it unpainted Huff Hines? And at some point when they go to him, okay, the profiler goes to him and he goes, any disgruntled employees? And he goes, fuck yeah. I have a disgruntled employee. They're all disgruntled. What do you think I'm doing? Running a daisy farm? Look, I love that he's not running a daisy farm, but they're all disgruntled. Now, that guy, as bad a boss as you think he would be, at least he's up front. He's just saying, here's the guy I am. He's not dancing and then having a bunch of disgruntled employees.
Yeah, this was a macro example. Now think of this as a micro example. Say you're a woman or a man, doesn't matter. Say you're in a relationship and somebody just yelled at you and like freaked out and like pushed you and shoved you and you're kind of reeling from it. And then they give this kind of apology like, look, I got mad, but I'm also a lot of other things. You'd be like, okay.
You're a psychopath. You're wildly or you're bipolar.
You would not feel satisfied with that apology.
No, but again, it's there's air conditioning and free food, so I can only feel sorry.
You should have said that.
Well, when you think about, you take the history of employment in America and you picture coal miners in Kentucky and you picture guys out on whaling boats and tuna boats and guys climbing skyscrapers with no proper safety harness, or guys in the shipbuilding industry with mesothelioma now. And then you have the set of Ellen. I'd say historically you'd hope that your grandkids end up on the set of Ellen with free food. And
that's right.
A boss that's in a mood. Well,
the Emmys happened over the weekend, and that was a few days ago, but we haven't had a chance to chit-chat about it. So just a couple of things. Of course, Jimmy referred to them as the Pandemies, which was sort of a perfect way to describe them, in front of what seemed like a full house, a full audience, until it was sort of poignantly revealed that he was actually playing to an empty house. They had a lot of cutaways and, of course, some old, B-roll of him walking out to other award shows. So it was pretty convincing until they put the lights up and you saw this big empty house. Schitt's Creek really swept. They swept their entire category, I think 7 Emmys. Zendaya became the youngest Emmy winner for Outstanding Actress in a Lead Role. And this, of course, unlike any other Emmy award show or award show for that matter, taking place. I'll give you a few highlights. Here's the opening. Here's about a minute of Jimmy's monologue with enough crowd cutaways to really convince the people that they were there.
Well, hello and welcome to the Pandemies. Wow, it's great to finally see people again. Thank you for risking everything to be here. Thank me for risking everything to be here. You know what they say, you can't have a virus without a host. The big question that I guess we should answer is, why would you have an award show in the middle of a pandemic? No, seriously, I'm asking, why are we having an award show in the middle of a pandemic?
You know, it was weird. We can pause it.
What the hell am I doing here?
I sent him a note yesterday saying, look, I know it's, cooked, but it's like strangely satisfying. Like, yes. I don't care that they were synthesized from another show. Like, it just, I don't know. In my brain, obviously I've worked on these shows with him a number of times, and obviously I know what's going on behind the scenes, but I just sat there and watched it and enjoyed the synthesized audience.
Yeah, felt good.
It was 85% of what it normally was. So I kind of liked it. He did say something funny, which is so true in the monologue. He's like, every time we mention Schitt's Creek, we need to run the logo past us. Because as you and I always talk about, or we all talk about this thing where it's like, when I started in radio, it's like, you can't say titties. You can't? No. You can say jugs and hooters and bazoombas and knockers, but you can't say titties. I'm like, why? And how long is that going to last? And who's making these rules up? And it's so funny. So it's like, he has to host a show where he says the title Schitt's Creek, and nobody cares how shits is spelled. They're saying Schitt's Creek, like if it was shits and giggles or what have you.
You're up Schitt's Creek.
Right. So he's saying Schitt's Creek, and they don't know how it's spelled. So they go, well, what does legal do with this? Do we beep it out? Does he say blanks creek? Like, what do we do? And I know how these legal guys work and the executives work. They go, well, we can't just have him up there saying Schitt's Creek. It's primetime network. He can't just say a word that sounds like Schitt's Creek. So why don't we, every time he says Schitt's Creek, we'll just fly by a logo of Schitt's Creek and you'll see how it's spelled, and then we'll have context for it. And he basically just said, this is why the networks are in last place. Like, these are the decisions they make. They wouldn't do that at Netflix. They wouldn't have to. Yes.
Also a bizarre decision, because I assume Schitt's Creek's been around for a while. I assume it's been promoted on whatever NFL, come on tonight, Schitt's Creek. Like, they don't run a logo every time they mention it's on Leno or Letterman, or whoever on Fallon, like, hey, you're starring in Schitt's Creek. I don't assume they float a logo.
Yeah, and Schitt's Creek isn't getting anything out of it because the series is over.
Well,
this was their final season.
The thing about this is when Jimmy does it, they have to fly the logo. Believe me, I've been in 1,000 of those meetings where it's like, he can't just say Schitt's Creek. Well, we can't bleep him out every time. Someone will raise their hand and go, what if we just had the logo fly under it or whatever? And go, fine. And then the next day you turn on TV and Billy Bush is up there and he's just going, Schitt's Creek wins 6 Emmys. Schitt's Creek sets a record. Father and son team on Schitt's Creek, and there's no logo and there's no anything and nobody cares. And then if you said to the lawyer who made Jimmy do it, he'd go, well, they're taking a chance. And it's like, okay. They're throwing caution to the wind.
Yep. When we were talking about the nominees when they first came out in the newsroom, I could say Schitt's Creek because it was in context. It was the nominees. Conway wouldn't say it, and neither would Mark Thompson, who was sitting in that night. Like, I don't think it's a good idea. I go, okay, but that's the name of the show, so I'm going to say it. I'm in the newsroom.
I remember a million years ago when I got to K-Rock, one of the very first conversations I had with Jimmy is I got there and I was kind of this guy, kind of blue collar. I was like a blue collar guy, boxing coach, carpenter and stuff like that. And my character, Mr. Bertram, was very blue collar. And I would kind of push the envelope a little bit. And I would say I wouldn't say Black Caucus. I'd say big swinging black caucus, and everyone would get mad at me. And I'd go, what? I can say it's just a big swinging black caucus. It's a political group or something like that. And there was always just kind of dancing around like what you could say, how much you could say. And I was always out there trying to push it a little bit. And I remember once I had a Bond secretary or Bond love interest, and her name was, I named her like Koozie McVulva. And Jimmy goes, you can't name her Koozie. You can't say Koozie McVulva or something like it was some version of that into the microphone at K-Rock. And I said, defiantly, I said, hey, it's a Bond name. It's like Pussy Galore. You get to say what you want. And he said like, well, why don't you call her Cunty Cuntenstein or something like that? and I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I get if you go far enough in one direction. Why don't you call her like Fucky Cuntenstein or something? And I was like, yeah, I guess if you keep going, you'd have to stop. There's a line somewhere, and maybe my Koozie McVulva crossed the line. But that was a very distinct conversation we had, and it was kind of a Schitt's Creek thing, which is that's the name of the town, Anyway, the next day, Billy Bush said Schitt's Creek 9 times, and nobody said anything, and there was no logos. And but that's the way it worked. So big, long discussions, network people, lots of emails going around, lawyers weighing in, and then the next day, no one gives a fuck. Moving on. That's done.
And it's funny because the show's been on for so many seasons, and it's finally over, and they get nominated in 7 categories and sweep. So you're going to have to make a decision and stick with it. You're not going to be able to go through the show and not mention them.
Is Eugene Levy's son look exactly like him?
For the most part, yes.
Maxwell, can you find that part where he's talking about Schitt's Creek and they run the logo through it?
Yeah, and also they do that, like whenever Dan Levy like when he would go on Stephen Colbert, they would do the same thing there too. Whenever they said Schitt's Creek, they'd have to put a lower third.
Oh, they do it on.
Yeah, you could watch this.
Oh, but then Billy
Bush. The title of this show is that CBS has made a real rule that we cannot say the title of the show without putting up a lower third. When we say the title of the show, you being the guest, I will allow you to say the title of the show first.
The show is called Schitt's Creek. There it is.
Yep.
So, I have co-created the show Schitt's Creek. Yeah.
Right. But then yesterday, Billy Bush said it 8 times and nobody cared. Like, we just do arbitrary, random rules, and then no one gives a fuck, and then we move on. That's how it works. I'll see if I can find that clip. And is Eugene Levy's Levy? Shit.
Levy, I think.
I always thought it was Eugene Levy.
Oh.
I thought it was Levy, too. But anyway, is his son gay?
I think so. Well, the character is gay, and I think the son is gay.
I saw that award show. That boy's wearing a skirt.
Well, there's a lot of like gay themes and normalizing it in this little town, and so I mean it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, apparently confirmed with Andy Cohen this year that he is gay has been out since he was 18.
Well, there you go.
All right,
we're reading off Wikipedia.
Whether you have any interest in that show or not, just to see Catherine O'Hara create this demented character is so fucking phenomenal. It's worth a watch.
I hear it's a good show, obviously. I haven't seen it because it's just there's so many shows, and I got to get caught up on those Love Boats.
That's right.
I've been watching Ethel Merman back again on the last episode.
Oh, good.
Oh, singing and dancing, Gina.
Did she do songs from Gypsy, or did she do No Business Like Show Business? There's no business like show business.
No, she enters the boat with Gene Rayburn.
Okay.
Match game host, I think.
Sure.
Gene Rayburn singing, I joined the Navy. Let's see. Wait, what's that? I joined the Navy to see the seas. And what I see, I saw the sea. I thought I'd see. I joined the Navy to see the world. And what did I see? I saw the sea. I don't know what it was, some sort of shanty or something. They're both singing and they just blasting onto the boat. And she was singing her ass off.
Here's a song by a gay guy.
It's good. It's Gopher's mom. She's Gopher's mom. Right.
That's fantastic. Well, while Chris looks for that, I have another clip that you might like. So remember we talked about the tuxedo hazmat suits and how that was a thing? Well, not only I couldn't really figure out what context they were in. Turns out it's better than we could have ever imagined. These people in the hazmat suits would show up at the house of each nominee and stand outside the window and hand them the statue if they won. So
5 XL shootings.
yeah, that's fine. So check out this video. This is a clip of the guy just waving goodbye because the guy didn't win. I think we have the video.
Yeah.
And he goes, bye-bye, and he takes the statue and he leaves.
Oh, they showed up at the nominees' houses?
That's right.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
That's cruel.
Because I was wondering how I was like, oh, well, everyone must know this year in advance who's going to win. No, they showed up at the nominees.
Yeah, that was a funny bit, and they just waved and left, and they were in these kind of Stay Puff balloon outfits. It was funny theater. Do we have that, Max Pata?
Yeah, let me see.
Let's see if we can find it.
There were so many great dramas this year, and comedies too. A little show from our friendly neighbors up north is up for every Emmy. 15 nominations for Schitt's Creek. Oh, by the way, you're going to be seeing that logo a lot because in order to meet broadcast standards, the network censors have decided that every time I say the words Schitt's Creek, we're required to put the words Schitt's Creek on the screen. Just in case you were wondering why network television is almost dead. HBO.
There you go.
Big Blue Pink.
It's funny when you make fun of the thing, but this is kind of part of the reason why they used to get a 40 share with Love Boat, and now nobody seems to really care. I'm trying to think, other than sports, trying to think of what is your network? Do you have I mean, you got Jimmy Kimmel, but I mean, I'm trying to think of the network shows. The comedies, the dramas. That Thursday night appointment viewing stuff is
maybe 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes still as well. SNL.
I mean, that's the thing. We're gone are the Friends and 30 Rock days. So who knows?
SNL. Good point.
But they're kind of unique. You know what I mean? They don't have a lot of competitors in terms of shows that do what they do.
Yeah.
I've found that the Australian 60 Minutes seems to be, for me, a better version of 60 Minutes. A little asking the tougher questions, a little less political, a little more just sort of, we're going to frag everybody. I don't know what they're doing over there in Australia, but they've got a good 60 Minutes that I've seen in Australia, or at least excerpts from. Brian, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to relay a half-baked thought. Hopefully you guys can contribute or possibly help me finish baking it. I was watching, there was a movie on the background today, and they were talking about taxi medallions. And it reminded me, there was that whole thing between Uber and Lyft and taxi medallions. So the taxi medallions had gotten so much, had basically deflated in value, right? Because they cost however much they cost, but now they're worth a fraction of what they
were
cost.
like $100,000 in Manhattan and maybe
more.
more.
It was actually, the movie was taking place in Manhattan. It made me think of it. But then I started thinking about why, and this ties back into the networks versus all the competitors, Netflix, Amazon, cable, whatever it is. Why do we have sympathy for certain groups or certain business models who get usurped by better business models and not have sympathy for others? I remember when we were on Wilshire Boulevard on the radio show, and there was a lot of mess about, these food trucks are taking away the business from the brick and mortar. And I was like, I'm not in my mind. I'm like, yeah, they fucking don't have a much better business model than brick and mortar, frankly. I mean, they're kind of skirting the rules. And then I thought about like Amazon or Barnes & Noble versus, or the Barnes & Nobles of the world versus, or Borders versus like Amazon. Like, why do we have sympathy for some in that category and not have sympathy for others?
Well, first things first, are we hungry? Do we want a street taco? A lot of it is just like, where are we? You
remember that particular uproar, right?
Yeah,
there's
always
thing in LA.
It was huge.
That's built in. It's now baked into society because as technology steams ahead at such a crazy speed, it's just bound to happen more and more often. My take is, first things first, do you have a dog in the fight? Does your family own a restaurant, or do they own a food truck?
True.
Or are you just hungry? What we all want is we want the cheapest book delivered to our doorstep as fast as possible, and we want the best soft taco we can get as conveniently as quickly. So everyone kind of becomes a little bit of a hypocrite, a little bit when you go, I want a taco or I want a book and I want to pay the least amount possible for it. I think
you can make the same comparison for radio and podcasting. You know what I mean? It's not a contest anymore.
I think the notion of open competition is fine. I think for me, my feeling is basically semi-level, as level as we can make it, competition is fine. My beef is when you have the corner family-owned florist shop in Toluca Lake, and then a mile away is Forest Lawn Drive, and everyone is just buying their bouquet of flowers along Forest Lawn Drive from folks that didn't have to pay taxes or deal with regulatory stuff or have permits or all the cost of running the florist shop that you would have to bake into the price of a bouquet of flowers. You can now be undercut by someone who doesn't have to have insurance for their employees or permits or, business licenses, all the things that you incur in that. And then it becomes an unlevel playing field. And now I have sympathy for those businesses. So my feeling is as long as everything is pretty level, like, do you want to listen to terrestrial radio or would you like to listen to a podcast? And you get to make a choice. Would you like to watch YouTube or would you like to watch Fox? My feeling is well, now the content will be king. They will win. The food truck is fine, but if the food truck is parked in front of the restaurant and the restaurant is paying all these taxes and the food truck maybe isn't, then it's sort of side with the restaurant. As long as everything can be made even, I should say, or maybe there's a zone for the food trucks or whatever. But I get your overall question.
It's half-baked. It's not. I'm not coming out in favor of this versus this. Just like why sympathy one way? And
I think what we want is competition, or at least what we would call fair competition. So taxis were always smelly. The ride was horrible. The drivers were horrible. Everything was horrible. And the lack of competition made it that way. And then Uber kind of came in and we got a totally different experience. And then Uber and Lyft have to compete. But my take is as long as things are fairly even, then let them compete and let the best show, let the cream rise to the top. Gina?
Okay.
Well, speaking of cream rising to the top, Dwayne Johnson is every bit the superpower that many think he is. He ripped off an entire security gate off its hinges so he wouldn't be late for work. That is a true American, and we have the video of that. So he posted this video of the aftermath on Instagram with this post. This is all Dwayne's words. Not my finest hour, but a man's got to go to work. We experienced a power outage due to severe storms causing my front gate not to open. It's his gate.
Yes.
I tried to override the hydraulic system to open the gates, which usually works when the power goes out, but this time it wouldn't. Made some calls to see how fast they could get on site. I didn't have 45 minutes. By this time, I know I have hundreds of production crew members waiting for me to come to work so we can start our day. So I did what I had to do. I pushed, pulled, and ripped the gate completely off myself, tore it out of the brick wall, severed the steel hydraulics, and threw it on the grass. My security team was able to meet the gate technician and welders, and they were apparently in disbelief and equally scared. Not my finest hour, but I had to go to work.
We put together a big girl bed for Tessa this weekend, and I called Christy's dad to come over and help.
I've had this happen a few times. Most of the motors on gates have a disconnect, like a manual disconnect. I'm not sure why I wasn't able to do the manual. Some have a key.
Well, given the choice between ripping it off and doing the manual, what's the rock going to choose?
Yeah. I don't know. He's also, so I was watching a story on TMZ last night, but he's also starring in a new superhero. I think it's called The Gate Punisher. So there's something coming.
Red Notice?
Well, first off, every single thing that Trump, I was about to say The Rock, but then it's sort of becoming the same theater. Everything has to be first examined through the jeweler's loop. Is he just doing this to promote his tequila or his thing? Because he's a master promoter. I mean, he's crazy promoter. And somebody smarter than me, Black Adam is the name of the character, but someone was saying, "Oh, this is kind of his promotion for this
great
new whatever," which made a lot of sense. All right, but anyway,
but it doesn't make you like him any less. It
No.
certainly makes me like him even more.
Yeah, I agree. Although it's an interesting conceit. I mean, because it's like theoretically, he's got a car coming for him to take him to set. I mean, The Rock has a Denali SUV show up at his house, right?
He could have made it there without destroying his property.
You got to flex the gate enough to kind of get through it, but you'd be surprised how flexy that stuff gets, or how you could just maybe put a ladder and just climb over the wall or climb over the fence or whatever. I will put it to you this way. If you said, "Hey, Rock, I will give you $100,000 if you can figure out a way to get out of your yard without destroying both sides of your gate," I bet it would be mission complete.
He'd come up with something.
I bet he'd come up with something.
Well, speaking of promotion, this person was trying to promote something and caused quite a stir in Chicago. Go ahead and show you that video right now. A Chicago highway was backed up for several miles on Monday due to a man with a horse. Adam Hollingsworth, a local celebrity, they call him, known as the Dreadhead Cowboy, and we have that, got on his horse and galloped down the Dan Ryan Expressway for a half hour during rush hour before he was finally pulled over and arrested. We're looking at him now. The horse was taken away and appeared to have an injured hoof from running on the asphalt for so long. Why was he doing this? Well, Hollingsworth says his stunt was intended to raise awareness to his Kids Lives Matter movement, which aims to help underserved communities receive more funding for children. He said of his highway ride, "Until we focus on Kids Lives Matter, this is going to keep happening." Police have charged him with reckless conduct, disobeying a police officer, criminal trespass to a state-supported property, and he is just hightailing it down that highway.
Yeah. Is there anything worse than being a local celebrity? Because you get enough taste of a celebrity.
Naked cowboy.
Yeah, but nobody knows who you are. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.